3 different herbs and spices. Well, two spices and 1 herb to be precise. Because I think a lot of people think of herbs and spices as just something that jazzes up the taste of food. And they do. I mean, they really do. And if you know how to use them well, you can really create some very interesting dishes. But of course, herbs have medicinal properties. They are like nature's pharmacy, really. And for every human ailment, there is the herb. And up until about 20 years ago, the medical profession thought it was all a load of rubbish, even though human beings have been using herbs to heal their ailments for thousands and thousands of years. And then gradually the pharmaceutical companies, because we are so getting anti-side effects, and we're starting to realise what traditional medication does to us, the pharmaceutical companies are beginning to become interested in herbs, and therefore they're putting some money into research. And they're really finding out what herbalists have known for millions of years, that certain herbs and spices are really good for things. So you can actually use them in your cooking to help with your health. So the first one we're going to look at is turmeric. So turmeric, that's turmeric. You can see I use it a lot. It's really this beautiful yellowy orange colour. You have to be incredibly careful with it. It stains like hell. I've got several tea towels that I can't get it out of, and there is a blotch on the carpet, isn't there, where we had a bit of an accident, and it just does not come out with everything you can think of. But one thing the thing that turmeric is really, 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 really good for is it has very strong anti-inflammatory properties. Very strong anti-inflammatory properties. They've done tests on it, and they've found that it actually is more effective as an anti-inflammatory than things like Nurofen and paracetamol. But it doesn't have the side effects.
No.
My mother's just had a back operation, and they'd given her 2,400 milligrams of ibuprofen a day, and eventually she was in such a lot of pain with her stomach, violently sick, and I had to step in and kind of do all kinds of stuff to try and calm it down. And that's what they're called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs do. They eat away at the lining of the gut. So they're not good, but some of us have continuous pain, and we can't do without them. So this is where something like turmeric can be really, really useful. So turmeric, it has this volatile oil in it called curcumin, not to be confused with cumin, which is also a slightly yellow colour and used in Indian food. But it's the volatile oil called curcumin, which is the bit that's anti-inflammatory. And of course, inflammation, I think I talked a little bit about that when I was talking about cholesterol. It's in short term, it's good. It's produced by the body to help repair damage. So it helps repair it, and it helps to kill off bacteria as well. But if it carries on long term, then it can start doing all sorts of nasty things to us. And certain illnesses like Alzheimer's is to do with inflammation on the brain, of the brain. Arthritis, obviously, is inflammation in the joints. Cancer, we're now beginning to realise inflammation, it plays a big part in the development of cancer, and it also, inflammation stops our immune system from being able to work on the tumours once they're in place. So we don't want inflammation in our body, and that's why something like this is so useful. So yes, as I say, they've done done studies on it with arthritis, not just osteoarthritis, which is sort of wear and tear, you know, achy knees, but also rheumatoid arthritis, which is the more severe one where the body's immune system starts attacking the joints.
Yeah.
They found that with turmeric, the swelling reduces, the tenderness goes down, and it also lessens the damage done to the joints by the inflammation, and it's more successful, again, than non-steroid and anti-inflammatory drugs. The other thing about turmeric, which is particularly wonderful, is that it has anti-cancer properties. So when you think of turmeric, you need to think of inflammation, so that's things like your joints, if you have asthma, if you have irritable bowel syndrome, anything with itis on the end is inflammation. So dermatitis is just inflammation of the skin, and bronchitis is inflammation of the bronchial tubes. So that's where they use for inflammation. So yes, so turmeric, think of inflammation, but also think cancer. Because what they found with turmeric, with this curcumin, the active ingredient in it, is that it does all these things for us to help prevent cancer. First of all, it stops it spreading, especially with leukemia and breast cancer. Second of all, it stops the tumours from creating blood vessels. Third of all, it encourages the cancerous cells to commit suicide. They've actually watched this under microscopes, and there's the cancerous cell, and they just basically turn on themselves and kill themselves with this going in there. And what was the third one? Oh yes, it's got a huge amount of antioxidants in it. So do you remember free radicals, the hooligan bikers who go around damaging healthy cells? And then antioxidants are the good guys. Well, this is full of antioxidants. So, the proof is in the pudding, because if you look at India, just look at the statistics. There are multiple studies on Indian people who consume about 1.5 to 2 grams of turmeric a day. They have, on average, an eighth as many lung cancers as they do in the West.
Is that 1/8 of the lung cancers, or 1/8 less than?
No, as many as. So
That's quite
if it's
significant.
100%, it will be whatever an eighth of 100%. Yeah, much less, much less. A ninth as many colon cancers, a fifth as many breast cancers, a tenth as many kidney cancers, and a fifth of the rate of prostate cancer. Despite their exposure to numerous carcinogens in their environment, you know, I mean, India is one of the most polluted places in the world, so they're breathing in carcinogenic compounds all the time, and yet they have an eighth as many cases of lung cancer. So that's quite phenomenal, isn't it? I mean, they have other health issues. The Indians have terrible problem with diabetes, because they love sweet foods, so lots of diabetes there, but they don't have as much lung cancer. So we would do well to copy them. So down the bottom there, I've put some ideas of how to include it in food. Now the thing is with curcumin, the active ingredient in turmeric, is it's very poorly absorbed through the lining of the gut. So you always need to eat your turmeric with pepper, with black pepper, because pepper contains, isn't it volatile, an alkaloid called piperine. And this increases the absorption of turmeric by 2,000%. So you always want to, in the mornings, I make smoothies, you know, with a NutriBullet, and I put a teaspoonful of turmeric in it. I grind some black pepper into it, and I put a splash of olive oil, because curcumin is oil soluble. It needs oil to carry it across the lining of the gut. So you need oil, you need black pepper with your turmeric. Always that combination. Otherwise it won't absorb very well. But if you think about it, you know, if you're making scrambled egg, that's a really good place to put curcumin, because it really is this very bright colour, but it doesn't taste of anything.
No.
It has this sort of slightly earthy smell.
Yeah, I quite like the smell of it.
And if you put a lot in things, you can just
Yeah.
start to begin to taste it.
Oh,
yeah.
You really went like,
This might be all right for you,
Yeah,
though,
'cause
because it's not.
mild,
It's
isn't
not
it?
like chilli or coriander. Even. It's not.
How's it elevated to be a spice? Because
They use
Yeah.
it a lot
Much
in
flavour.
Indian cooking.
No,
No, I
exactly.
used to do. I've heard of the place before.
Oh yeah.
I'm just
yeah.
curious, if it doesn't have much taste, does it?
I think it just gets included for its medicinal
Yeah.
purposes because it
It
really
does,
doesn't
yeah.
have any taste or act or anything
Oh, right.
at all, which
I'll
is
try it.
useful for our purposes
Mhm.
because it means you can stick it in all sorts of places and you don't really know it's there. So you can put it in scrambled egg because you put black pepper in scrambled egg anyway.
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
And I always put a bit of oil before I put
Do
it
you-
in.
I mean, quantity-wise, does it need much black pepper? Because obviously black pepper has quite a taste. I like pepper, but not
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah, I can't find out exactly how much pepper you need, but I just do a grind or two. Yeah. I think it just needs that alkaloid present in order to catalyse it. Or,
And are you suggesting then that we should have a teaspoon of that a day somehow? I'll go back to it.
1.5 to 2 grams.
I don't know what teaspoon is.
That's
It's
about
2
a
teaspoons
teaspoon.
if you're serious about it, otherwise just 1 teaspoon.
Right.
It's about a gram per teaspoon.
Is it?
Is it?
I didn't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's my turmeric expert.
Yeah.
You can also put it on roasted vegetables. Do you remember I gave you that
Yeah,
really
yeah,
nice
I like
roasted
it.
vegetables
Yeah.
with halloumi cheese? You can
Yes.
put that in. You can add it to rice and it makes it go yellow. You know, like saffron,
Yeah.
but a fraction of the price.
You don't put oil in rice, do you?
No, but let's say you made some rice, we would really be eating it cold, wouldn't we, or for lunch, and you would perhaps put some vegetables with it and a dash of olive oil on top. Put it in soups. Now I've given you a recipe on the next page for a cauliflower, spiced cauliflower soup. It's very nice, this is, I've tried it, and it's got 1 teaspoonful of turmeric in it. You could put more in actually, because this is to serve 6 to 8 people, so there's still not really enough in there for a daily whack of it, a daily allowance of it. But if I was you, do you do smoothies at all?
We don't
Do you
really
do
do
NutriBullets? No.
Could do, just not something we've done.
Yeah. Ian mixes it into hummus as well, don't you? Which is quite nice. And you could use that as your snack. You just have to be so careful with it. But. Okay, so that's turmeric. So I hope I've inspired you to get using this. So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to talk about rosemary now. So let's just have a whiff of rosemary. I love the smell of rosemary. If you run your hand
Oh, yeah.
over it.
I know we grow it in the garden, every time I walk past it, it's wonderful to do
Do you
that.
like the smell of it?
It's wonderful stuff, isn't it?
It's very prickly.
Oh, I know, so when you have it on, I've had it on lamb, you know, and it's sort of,
a bit
yeah, it's rather,
Yes, you have to chop it up really, really fine. That's the way
whoever
to
done
do
it had left the whole sort of piece,
Oh,
you
right,
know, like
no.
the, you're like pine needles, isn't it?
Yeah, it is actually.
It
They
was
are
just
quite,
chosen.
because rosemary means the rose of the sea. Mar is the sea. So they, in the wilds, they would grow near the sea. So I suppose they need to have these nice, you know, small leaves so they don't get damaged by the wind and all the rest of it. So, and also just to let you know, a sprig of rosemary, you know they say a sprig of rosemary, I used to think that was
Yeah,
a
that's
sprig
what
of
I-
rosemary. No, it's not. It's
The whole
It's the
thing.
whole-
Oh.
the whole branch.
Oh.
That counts as a sprig of rosemary. I looked it up to do that, so it's quite a lot actually, isn't it? So, if turmeric is for cancer and for inflammation, rosemary is for memory. rosemary is really,
This is
really
working out quite
good
well
for
for
the
me.
brain. Is it?
I've got arthritis and I've got bad memory, so I don't know what's coming next.
I have the answer for you. Absolutely. No, this is really, really stunning. Actually, just listen to this, because rosemary improves the circulation to the brain, and it particularly helps with memory, and it particularly helps guard against Alzheimer's. Has anyone here got Alzheimer's in their family? Your mum? Yeah? Your mum? My maternal grandmother,
I feel like it.
and my maternal grandfather had Alzheimer's. What about you?
No,
Angela?
they don't have it.
No.
Very fortunate.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, it does tend to run in families, so we want to do everything we possibly can to avoid it. Now, what they did in Japan, Tokyo University, they took 28 elderly, senile people, not senile, with Alzheimer's, poor men, and they, for 28 days, all they did, they didn't get them to ingest it. They just took the essential oil, you know, the aromatherapy oil that
Yeah.
you can get from the health food shop. I always used to be a bit kind of poo-pooing about aromatherapy. Well, they burnt this aromatherapy in one of these things, and they just got these elderly people to smell it. So the oils get into the air, and then they get into the nose, and you absorb it through the mucous membrane that lines the nose. And I don't think it was all of them, but something like 80% of them, their memory improved significantly, just from smelling it, which is quite phenomenal, isn't it? So, what I started doing every morning in the kitchen, while I'm making my lunch to take to the clinic, I burned this with lemon oil. That was the other thing they put in it. So they had rosemary oil and they had lemon oil. Just a few drops, and just every so often, you know, go and have a whiff of it. Or, like we've just done, but you see the thing is with that, is it's getting on my fingers, and a little bit's getting up my nose, but it's not, you really need the oil to be actually suspended in the air molecules to get it into you. So that's one way of improving your memory, and science has shown us it really does work.
So they might do it in tablet form or something like that that you can take rather than have it in.
I don't think so. I could look into that for you. But you can eat it, because the other wonderful thing about rosemary is also cancer. They have shown that if you cook, you know, meat, you know, I was telling you about fat, and I was talking about smoke point, and how once you get beyond that, it starts to produce carcinogenic compounds, which is a bit tricky to get round. Well, what they found out is that if you put rosemary in your cooking, it stops those carcinogenic compounds from being created. So you can actually get olive oil that's been infused with rosemary oil. So what they do is they take several sprigs of rosemary, and they put it into the oil, and then the oils from the rosemary get into the oil and the olive oil, and then you can use that for your cooking. Rather expensive, this was. I had to get it from Italy, and so far I haven't found another source, but hopefully we'll be catching on. You can make your own if you want. If you've got some rosemary in the garden, you just get a bottle of olive oil. You have to make certain that the rosemary sprigs are completely dried out. They mustn't have any moisture left, otherwise it will go mouldy. And you leave it in, and it's all written down there.
Right.
You leave it in for X amount of time, and then you've made your own rosemary oil. And then if you're going to do something like cook a steak, something like that, or mince, that's what they use it with, then use rosemary oil. It's got a slightly funny smell. It doesn't actually smell of rosemary. Does it?
Really? More than one.
No, it doesn't smell. I can smell the olive oil. Can smell it a bit.
Little bit. But obviously by the time it's gone into the oil, it's slightly
Yeah.
changed its smell, but I haven't found that it particularly makes my cooking unpleasant at all or anything
I
like
suppose you don't
that.
know how much is in it, how much is infused into it.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, I would always then add a bit more of this
Yeah.
as well in it. So again, over the page, it goes particularly well with chicken and lamb.
Yeah.
Those are the two meats to combine it with. It also goes really well with tomatoes. So if you're, I don't know, you've been having spaghetti bolognese, because I have told you not allowed to. But if you're making any kind of casserole with tomatoes in it, you can put some rosemary in with it. It's also quite nice in omelettes, actually. Yeah, it works quite well in omelettes.
But you could put the bits in it. the
Yeah,
beans in
you
it,
could.
couldn't
You can chop it up really, really
Really
fine.
fine. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you don't want the woody bits. You want
No.
to strip the leaves off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Chop it up very, very fine.
So can you buy rosemary in the buckets of slices then, chopped up? Or?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
That's dried, which is all right. But as soon as it's dried, as soon as the herb is dried, you lose quite a lot of the effective ingredient from it. It's always best to use them fresh. Yeah. The fresher the better. It's also very good for macular degeneration. Does anyone know anyone with macular degeneration? Because that tends to be genetic as well. It's where you lose the centre of your focus and all you can see is the periphery. It's a horrible, horrible disease, and it's apparently the most common reason for people going blind in this country. It tends to come on later in life. But rosemary can guard against that. So if you know anybody who's got macular degeneration or whose parents had macular degeneration, then it's a good one to tell them that. Okay, good. The last one I'm going to show, I've given you a recipe, rosemary chicken with tomato sauce, very yummy. The last one I'm going to talk about is ginger. I have given you some information about parsley, but I'm not going to do that because it takes too long and I end up rushing the next bit. So you can read that yourself. But anyway, ginger. Now when I talk about ginger, I don't mean ginger nuts, all right? I know, I have patients who say that. And they've, I don't know, got a cold or something, I say, well, you should have lots of ginger. Oh, well, I do. I have ginger nuts with my cup of tea in the morning. Or the other ones, I particularly like those stem ginger shortbreads that they do in Waitrose. I have to say to them, no, not what I mean. I mean this stuff. Yes. This is proper ginger root. This is where all the good stuff is in. And with ginger, if you're thinking rosemary is for the brain and for cancer, turmeric is for inflammation and cancer, ginger is for colds, especially the upper respiratory tract infections and the heart. Okay. So I've always known that ginger was something you had when you had a cold. I don't know if you know that, but I always make myself lemon, honey and ginger tea when I've got a cold, and I know it makes me feel better. But what I didn't realise is that this does actually have very strong antibacterial properties, and it particularly targets bacterial and viral, it particularly attacks the virus, targets the virus that creates a cold. So I mean, there's loads and loads and loads of different viruses. The cold is only one of them, but this particularly targets it. So it's a really good one to know about. Also, if you catch the cold, it helps to stimulate perspiration. And perspiration is a way the body uses to get rid of the virus and also the after effects of the battle with the virus. It also helps to suppress or sort of soothe coughs, and it's a decongestant, so it unblocks your nose. And then it's particularly good for bronchitis. So it's like a little sort of Lemsip or cold and flu remedy, all in its own, and you can make tea with it. That's how I do it. I grate it, put it in a teapot, and I drink quite a lot of it. I mean, do you like ginger? Do you like taste? Oh, good, fine. I would grate about that much. Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah, it's really strong. And then you squeeze a lemon, put that in, pour your water in, let it brew, and then strain it into a cup and put in a teaspoon of Manuka honey. And then you've got a really powerful antibacterial drink. You could do that 3 times a day. For lowering blood pressure. Who's got high blood pressure?
I do have, but I don't have. So, it's controlled. Put it
It's
that way,
controlled,
but it wouldn't
right.
be if I wasn't careful.
Right. Now then you have to be very careful, because if your blood pressure is being controlled and you start then doing something natural to help it, your blood pressure can go down too low.
Right, okay.
So you would then have to be getting checkups more
okay.
regularly,
Yeah.
or checking your own. if
Yeah, I
you've
do
got a
monitor
machine.
it myself, so.
Yeah. And then you would, if it's going low, you go to your doctor and you say, I'm now drinking ginger tea every morning and it's made my blood pressure go down. So I want to take less of my blood pressure tablets. Yeah. But what it does for the blood pressure is it actually lowers bad cholesterol. Remember the LDL, the little devil, the one that builds up plaque on the lining of the arteries? Well, it helps to lower that. It helps to keep the walls of the blood vessels nice and elastic, because when they go stiff, that's the reason why your blood pressure goes up. So it keeps them nice and elastic. It stimulates the heart muscles to pump more effectively, so it's pumping around a lot better. There's one more thing. Oh yes, and it dilutes the blood as well, so that stops it from clotting. A word of warning, and like you, but if you know anyone on warfarin, for example, which is a blood thinning drug, or even aspirin, you want to be very careful with ginger.
Right.
And you mustn't give it to children under the age of 2. I'm not quite certain why, but that's contraindicated. No, children under 2 can do it. So just so that you know about that. So, I hope that kind of, well, let's have a look. How have I talked about using it? Yeah, I've talked about juicing it. Steam frying, yes. Stir frying, steam frying. You make your little matchsticks of it, you chuck them in. Oh, fantastic. Really gives a kind of good zing to those. You can put it in casseroles. I made a butternut squash and cannellini bean soup this morning, and I stuck a load of ginger in it. It's lovely. It gives a little bit of a spicy edge to it. Then I also put a load of turmeric in it as well.
Right.
So you've got a lovely soup with 2 medicinal properties to it. Okay, so hope that you'll go home and start using your herbs. I've given you a recipe for lemony chicken and spinach curry for you to try. Not for you, Brenda, probably not, but the other 2 ingredients. Right, good. So let's talk about stress. Who suffers from stress?
You do.
Well,
I'm not putting my hand up.
Well,
No.
yeah.
Take it all in your stride.
Do and don't.
Easy, cool as a cucumber.
I do suffer some.
Yeah.
You wake up really early in the morning.
Do you?
You're always worrying.
No, that's because my knee hurt.
But you do. If you ask.
What's going on with your knee?
I've got a touch of arthritis. Oh, plus the blood's knocked me over as well, which didn't help get me inside. But both my knees start to ache at night when the weight's off them, and I looked it up and it's arthritis or something.
Yes, sounds like it.
I'm going to get them x-rayed. So.
That'd be a good idea, because then at least you know what's going on with them, don't you? So turmeric.
Yeah, I'm on the case.
Glucosamine sulfate, do you take that? Do you Do you know about
Mm.
glucosamine
No,
sulfate?
we
No, we
used to.
used to,
don't-
didn't-
No, we don't take that.
No, not
don't
recently.
we?
No.
Persevere with
Take
it.
a lot.
Because it's the basic building block that the body uses to make cartilage.
Right.
So what's happened with your knees is the cartilage probably is worn away on the ends of the bones, and when you get bone grating against
Yeah.
bone, and that creates inflammation, which
Yeah.
is what creates the pain. So the glucosamine sulfate gives the body the building block to build that
Yeah.
cartilage back up again. And the other one that's really good is devil's claw as well, which is a herb. You get it from the health food shop. That works particularly well. And I think you can get it in cream form as well as a tablet. I don't know if there's any, are you on any other medication?
No.
No. So devil's claw, glucosamine sulfate, and with glucosamine sulfate it's best if you get it with chondroitin
Yeah.
and MSM.
So, three things.
We used-
That's
yeah.
two of them, definitely.
It's a bit expensive, it
Mm.
can get a bit expensive. Lambert's,
Yeah.
I think I have any details
Yeah,
on
I've got
Lambert's
them,
before.
yes, yeah.
They do a good one, which has also got ginger in it, which it also has
Yeah.
anti-inflammatory properties. So,
Try that, yeah.
yeah. Okay, right, so we're going to talk about stress. Well, I'm going to talk about mindfulness actually, which is the positive side of stress. You know, you've started looking
I
into
do,
that,
yeah, I've
haven't
got a
you?
little book every day that I have to read today's mindfulness task. It's quite good fun.
It's good, isn't it?
Yeah. Makes you stop and think as well.
It does, and it's certainly the thing that seems to be they're having the most success with. The institute in Oxford has been studying this and putting together these techniques for quite a while now, and it's really, really good. It's something that I've been practicing for about 6 years, something like that, and yeah. It's very good, and I'll explain to you why. See if I can help you to understand how it works. All right? So the thing about stress, well, why is it important? Why am I talking about stress on a weight loss course? Is because when you get stressed, your blood sugar levels go up. Because, do you remember I was telling you that when you get stressed, you go into fight-flight mode? So the body releases loads of sugar into your blood, which is going to power your muscles so that you can fight your way out of the situation, or you can run like hell. And then those blood sugar levels will drop down, and you'll then feel hungry, because your body thinks that you run like hell. It doesn't know. And it's telling you, you must now replenish those sugar levels that you've just expended. And of course you haven't. So that's one reason why stress stymies our weight loss efforts. It also slows down the metabolism. It also improves, makes bigger inflammation. We've just talked about that, to Alzheimer's and heart disease and so on and so forth. So it's really important to get a grip on your stress, not just because it feels so damn unpleasant and makes us make stupid mistakes and say stupid things and all the rest of it, but it's also not good for our health. So let's sort of put stress under the microscope and actually look at it, because we say, oh, I feel stressed. Well, what are we actually feeling? Because an emotion, like stress, is actually a kind of a bundle of thoughts and emotions and physical sensations and impulses. It's a bundle of all of those things. So, for example, we might be thinking things like, what if I fail? Or what if I don't make the deadline? Or what if I don't get there on time? Or what if that person doesn't think I'm good enough? Or whatever those thoughts we have are going through our heads, we then start to feel emotions like anxiety, like fear, maybe frustration, maybe anger, maybe overwhelm. That's my big one. We might have many of those kind of emotions are starting to come up. Then also our body is also stressed, going into a whole load of things. Maybe our heart starts pounding faster. Maybe we start sweating. Maybe we start hunching our shoulders, or other people scrunch their bums up. You know, it depends where you keep your stress. But our bodies start to do things. And also we might get impulses, like we might suddenly want to burst into tears, for example. Or we might want to storm out the room and slam the door. Or we might want to hit someone, that's another one. So all kinds of stuff is going on when we say we're stressed. Do you feel okay?
Yeah. No.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, all sorts of stuff. And the trouble is that those four things, the thoughts, the emotions, the body sensations, the impulses, start ping-ponging off each other. They start feeding off each other. So for example, you might feel that your heart's racing fast, and you're like, oh my God, maybe I'm going to have a panic attack. And then you get panicked because you think you might have a panic attack. And then you start thinking, yes, but if I have a panic attack, then I'm going to be late. And if I'm late and I'm late again, so it could be that you've just had one vaguely negative thought first thing in the morning, and you can then be stressed for the rest of the day. It just goes on the whole time because of this feeding off each other that these four different things inside of us do. And the thing is that humans we are the only creature who has this unique ability to make mountains out of molehills, basically. Because if you watch a wildlife program, let's say, you've all seen the Daily, and there's the gazelles. Gazelles, isn't it? Giselle is the right. Gazelles, there they are, grazing peacefully on the African savannah. And then the camera pans over, and there's the lioness hiding in the grasses. And then suddenly she leaps out and she starts chasing the gazelles. And the gazelle's fight or flight mechanism kicks in, and they start running like hell. And the lioness then catches one of them and takes it to the ground and starts eating it. And the whole flock goes back to grazing again. Not as if it might have been their auntie. If human beings had just seen their auntie being killed by a lion, we'd have to have years of counselling for that. Yes. But animals don't, because their fight or flight switches on, and then once the danger is passed, it switches off. That doesn't happen with us, because we have the ability to remember past times when a similar thing happened, and we have the ability to start looking into the future and thinking, what if whatever happens. So for example, if you take, let's say, an example like, you go out, you leave your home in the morning, and the neighbour starts to have a go at you because you've left your wheelie bin slightly over the drive, right? And your neighbour shouts at you. You go into fight-flight mode, your heart will start pumping, you might start shaking a little bit, and so on and so forth. You don't run, you don't punch them in the nose, you apologise profusely. You then get in your car, right, and you're driving to work, and you start thinking, don't you?
Reliving it.
Yeah, reliving it, exactly.
I know you were fighting the punchman.
Exactly. Why I'm so weak because I didn't stand up to him. He's so fussy. Nobody appreciates all the good things I did for them. Don't they remember I pushed their football over the fence back to their kids? What if he tells his wife and she's no longer friends with me? I was such an idiot for leaving the wheelie bin there. I knew I should have brought it in and I forgot about it. And you start ranting at yourself, and every time you think a negative thought, you have another emotion about it. You start feeling anxious, you start feeling angry, you start feeling self-piteous, your shoulders are going up, your knuckles are now white, and that can influence your whole day, or even your week, because of all these thoughts we have, all these emotions we have, and this ability to keep thinking into the future, reliving in the past like that. So, how do we then deal with a situation like that? Well, I'm going to try and show you what we do and a different way of dealing with it. Because I'm going to show you, I want you to just put your papers down a moment. We're going to do a little experiment here. We're going to take a feeling, right? It's not an emotional feeling, it's a sort of bodily feeling. I want you to just close your eyes and I want you to focus on any tiredness that you might be feeling in your body. And then I want you to ask yourself, why am I tired? Just watch what your mind comes up with. Ask yourself, what's wrong with me that I feel tired? Ask yourself, what will happen if I don't get over this tiredness? Okay, just open your eyes. So, what happened while you were doing that?
And then when it got to it, why am I stressed? All this loads of things suddenly came into my head all at once. It's this,
Really?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was odd.
Did it make you feel less tired asking those questions?
I said my head cleared a little bit.
Did it?
But after I got over that bit, I think, yeah, I was, I think it sort of cleared a bit. I felt less cluttered after I got over that initial
Over that initial bit?
nasty bit, yeah.
Did any of you feel more tired asking those questions? No?
No, I find it a bit difficult to think to order like that.
Yeah.
I just sort of, my mind goes blank instead.
Yeah.
I need to, it needs to be original thoughts ultimately. No.
Original
I just
thoughts,
find
yeah.
it tricky.
Some people do. What about you, Brenda?
I don't feel any more tired. I just.
What sort of things did you come up with in your head when you asked those questions of yourself?
So you know what I've got to do to stop feeling tired. You know, I mean, like going to bed earlier and having a decent night's sleep.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yes.
it's, which I don't do. I can't go to sleep early at
We're
night.
guilty of that.
And I don't really get up that early in the morning.
We're too tired to get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You'll get overtired.
And if
Yeah.
I
Well,
have,
what I mean
if
is
I have a
it's
bath or
just-
something late at
Oh,
night,
like
that
sit on the
really
Just the
sofa.
action, yeah. I want to
Yeah.
sit
So
I'm
I
tired.
start
I
early.
can't bother to go through the rigmarole of going up.
Yeah.
No, try and relax
I know
a bit
what
then.
exactly
what
but
you
I
mean.
can't.
Right, well, you've totally failed that.
Yeah, sorry.
All three of you. Because what usually happens when you start asking
No,
yourself...
but sorry, you were saying you're working out how to get less tired by going to bed early,
Mm.
and then you say, yes, but I can't go to bed early because,
Yeah.
so you're kind of defeating,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
I can't sleep.
your
I'm
things
too.
were getting
Yeah.
worse and worse and
Yeah.
worse, which is sort of the point, I think.
Mm.
Because I could feel it, I was doing it, and I just thought, come on, is that what I've got on my shoulders, you know? You just feel, oh Lord.
Yeah. That's what usually happens when I do this. People actually end up feeling more tired
Yeah.
by focusing on it and asking, why am I so tired? And what will happen if
Yeah.
I can't get over this tiredness? Then actually feeling less tired. And why that tends to be is because when we have an emotion, and that was not really an emotion, it's a physical sensation, but it's easier to tune into physical sensation because you might not be feeling emotions at the moment. And anyway, emotions are a bit more nebulous, aren't they? So, what have I said? Yeah, tiredness it's an emotion or it's a feeling. And what we tend to do is when we're trying to get out of a feeling, we tend to apply what they call in psychology the doing mode. So what the doing mode does, and I'll read this out because I can't remember it all, is you... Sorry, where does it say this? Yeah, you see yourself in a place, let's say unhappy, and you know where you want to be. So you're unhappy, you want to be happy. Now if you apply the doing mode to that, what happens is your mind starts to analyse the gap between where you are, unhappy, and where you want to be, happy. And then how it works, does it by progressively trying to narrow the gap between those two places. And then every time it visualises a solution, it then reanalyses to see, am I any closer to feeling happy? Now that doing mode is really, really good if you're going to do something physical. So for example, it's brilliant for working out how you're going to get from from home to work. Or it's really good at working out how you're going to decorate the sitting room, for example, or how you're going to build your extension. Then you would apply doing mode. It's absolute rubbish for solving emotions. So again, I'm going to do an experiment. I hope you'll have a bit more success at this, Steve. I want just to give you an example, an experience of your doing mode happening. So I'm going to give you an imaginary scenario that you've got to get to Nice in the south of France by, let's say, Wednesday morning. No, Thursday morning. You've got to get to Nice, and French traffic control are on strike. Sounds very feasible, doesn't it? Okay, so I just want you to sit there, work out in your mind how you're going to get from here on Tuesday evening to Nice by Thursday morning. And just try and watch what your brain's doing while you're doing it. You can close your eyes if you want. I'm going to do it with you. Because you can't fly, remember. Okay. Worked it. Whoa, Steve's there, okay. So, let's
I want to
let's
see
do
the
that.
place.
So we're in Henley, and we're going to Nice. Okay, so what did your mind come up with, Steve?
Oh, I googled first of all to get my
Yeah, absolutely. We Google first of all, wouldn't we? To
sounds,
find
it
out.
sounds. To get a ticket for some ferry,
Yeah,
car ferry,
yeah.
and then once I'm getting my car, well, I was going to pack first, get my car.
Right, so you're going to take your
So
car.
I was going to book a hotel first, in case I didn't have no
Oh,
stay.
that's a good idea, yeah.
The same way, isn't it?
Okay.
I know you like hotel.
So you're going, what, how,
I was,
Eurostar,
Oh,
ferry?
no, I was going to drive to
Right.
the ferry, get
Right,
the ferry,
ferry.
then drive to the hotel, and then do it the next morning.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Were you finding that you were working out what the distance was, whether you could make it in the car, or, you know, how many miles you'd have
Within
to drive
reason, yeah.
per
2 days.
Yeah,
per
it's a
day?
2-day job, really.
It is really, isn't it? It's pretty, it's pushing it to get
Yeah.
there by Thursday
Yeah.
morning. You have to drive through the night.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? Did you come up with anything else?
Just basically the same
Same
reason.
thing, yeah. Anyone think about where they're going to eat?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know you should be thinking it now.
Well, that you do as you go along, isn't it? You don't
Yeah.
plan. I don't plan.
No.
I go to the restaurant.
So motorway services,
Yeah.
pretty good in France actually,
Yeah,
aren't
they are.
Yeah,
Better than
very,
ours.
very good. Okay, but could you see what your mind was doing? Could
Yeah.
you see it going, okay, there's Nice,
Yeah.
here, okay, good, I need to get ferries, and you're continuously seeing, is that going to get me there? I went off on a bit of a tangent and found no, that probably wouldn't get me there, or it wouldn't get me there on time. I was getting all confused about Paris and crossing Paris from the Gare du Nord to the Gare de Lyon and all the rest of it. Yeah, so that was not working, and
Right.
then I had to kind of backtrack, but you can see your mind doing it, can't you? Right, now let's say we apply doing mode, which is what we do, to our problem. Let's say we're unhappy. Let's say we're driving to work in the car, right, and we're feeling really unhappy.
You sure?
And we want to get to a place of happiness, right? So what we do is we start asking ourselves questions like we did, your mind was doing here. We start asking ourselves questions. Why am I so unhappy? Well, it's because of my job, isn't it? Or maybe you should change your job. Yeah, I don't have the qualifications, do I? Yeah, well, your mum always told you, didn't you, that you were going to, if you didn't do your homework, you weren't going to get those qualifications. Yeah, I should listen to mum. I'm actually pretty rubbish, and I'm just going to get stuck in this job forever, and it's my fault, and blah, 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 blah. So I'm a failure, okay? Let's say it's because of my husband. That's what it is. I'm unhappy because of my husband. And what am I going to do about that? Well, my mum told me never to marry I could get a divorce, yeah, but if I'm going to have a divorce, then that's lawyers' fees, isn't it? And I haven't got enough money to pay lawyers' fees. So you're thinking, yeah, okay, I've got to get divorced, I'm a failure, I'm rubbish, maybe I should have a lobotomy, for example.
That would do me.
Is that going to make you feel happy? No, it's going to make you feel worse, isn't it? And this is what we do to ourselves. When we've got an emotion which we want to get out of, we apply the same mental processes that we would apply to getting to Nice in a day and a half. And it doesn't work. It actually makes it worse because the mind will always come up with a load of good reasons why you're unhappy. Now, fortunately, there is another mode that our brains can employ. We're not good at it in the West, but you can train yourself. You can practice it. And it's called what the psychologists call the being mode. So let's say you're feeling an emotion. The best thing to do is to just feel it. just observe it, because you've got to remember that an emotion is not a problem. It's actually a response to an external or an internal stimulus. Yeah? So my neighbour shouted at me, I have an emotion. It's a response to an external stimulus. It's a sort of fight-flight response. It's not a problem. Do you understand the difference? Not being able to get to Nice for a meeting, that's the problem. But an emotion is not a problem, and that's why you have to apply a different mode. So what you need to do with an emotion in being mode is you feel the emotion rather than analysing it. Don't analyse it. It will not make it any better. You want to acknowledge it rather than trying to change it, because that's another thing we do, isn't it? That's where the eating comes in. Yeah, but if I eat chocolate, it will change this emotion, which is also wonky logic, isn't it? That doesn't work either. We talked about that in another lesson. You want to accept it and you want to welcome it. We don't do that. We try and run away from our emotions. We don't like feeling them. We phone a friend, we eat, we fidget, we go and clean or whatever it is that we do, but we try and suppress it. We say we should not be feeling this emotion. We shouldn't be feeling it, so we push it down. That's the absolute wrong thing to do with the emotion. You should accept it and you should welcome it. And you should observe it uncritically. Don't criticise it. Don't judge it. Don't say it's wrong that I'm feeling this emotion. Because you're feeling it. It's not wrong, it's just how you have responded, as I say, to an external stimulus or an internal one. It doesn't, the fight-flight response does not know a difference between a real dangerous situation and an imaginary one. Have you ever been really relaxed, watching telly, and let's say you've got a meeting tomorrow and you suddenly think, what if the projector doesn't work? It hasn't happened. But you have all the same responses to it, don't you? So even in our imaginations, we'll trigger it, and then all you can do is just watch it. Say, oh, I'm having an emotion. That's what I did in response to that scenario. I sat in my car and I'm frightened. That really frightened me, that did. That just felt horrible. And emotions are like children. You need to basically get down on the floor with them and give them a big hug. I know that sounds terribly kind of new age, lovey-dovey, touchy-feely, but honestly, that's the best way of changing. And they will change. They will release. They will let go. So, to finish off with, because it's all very well saying that, isn't it? But if you haven't trained in it, you're going to go off in your usual response to emotions. And that's where meditation is a really good thing to do. Meditation is a little bit like practicing being in the present moment, being mindful every day before you start work. And then you lose it. I mean, I do. I meditate every morning, and I'm there. I'm in the moment. I'm in the present. And then, of course, the day happens. But if I don't meditate, I really notice it. Those little things will catch me and drag me much more than if I've meditated. If I've meditated, I've had my little bit of practice of staying in the present moment and observing. So I thought we'd finish off by just doing a little bit of meditation, because I don't know about you, but when I didn't know how to meditate, I used to think, oh my God, I've just got to make my mind go blank. Well, actually I didn't. I thought, well, that's really easy. Just sit down and I'll make my mind go blank. It's one of the most difficult things in the world to do. Those thoughts, they have a volition of their own. But That's the most difficult kind of meditation to do, where you just let your mind go blank. That's for Buddhist monks who've been doing it for 25 years, okay? I'm going to teach you a much more active way of meditating. So, we're going to close our eyes. And I want you to start off by observing your breath. Notice which nostril the air is going in and out of. It will usually be only one. And even observe that little bit of flesh below your nose as the air comes out. Feel the temperature of the breath. And now bring your attention to your bottom and become aware of the pressure of the chair against your bum. Just observe the sensation, don't judge it, don't try and change it, just watch it. Now bring your attention to your back and where it's pressed against the chair or not. Just observe the back. Go into details. What's the temperature? What's the texture? Now I want you to take your attention to outside of your body and pay attention now to the sounds. And now I want you to take your attention to the temperature of the air, where it's touching your skin. Really feel the air with every hair on your skin. Now take your attention back into your body and observe if there are any emotions there. used to feeling emotions, they usually lurk around about the area of your solar plexus, base of your breastbone, or in other parts of your abdomen. Now bring your attention back to your breathing. Just observe your breath.
I've had sleep several times, I have to say, but yeah, it's a nice experience.
It's nice, isn't it? It's not so difficult if you're changing the thing you're observing all the time, because your brain doesn't get quite so bored then. You're giving it something to do, but you're not going off into flights of imagination, thinking about what you've got to do at work tomorrow. And where that helps you in daily life is, and I use it a lot actually when I'm working with my patients. If I've got a patient who, I try and do it all the time, but particularly if someone is a bit aggressive, or even if they're a bit wound up, it's quite easy, because I'm quite a sensitive person, to start getting dragged along, even because they're talking very fast. And so they're speeding the pace of the treatment up, and I can start to run next to them and get quite stressy. I just keep focusing on my breathing all the time. So I've got about 20% of my attention on my breathing, and whatever was that, 80% of my attention on what they're saying, because obviously I need to be focusing on what they're saying. But just by doing that, I don't fall out of myself into their mood. And even I've had people, get really irate on the telephone because, I don't know, they thought they had an appointment and they didn't have an appointment, and got it wrong or something like that. If you keep focusing on your breathing, it doesn't touch you. It really doesn't touch you. And what little bit does, you put the phone down, you just observe that emotion inside of you. And it's amazing. I found myself, I no longer go off into, I'm an idiot, I'm a hopeless, blah, 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 blah. And the most dramatic example I had was, I went on television, on local television about a month ago. I was so calm, it was unbelievable. There was a part of me that was watching me going, why aren't you stressed? You should be getting stressed by now. You're going to go on TV, you're going to be in front of all these viewers. It just didn't touch me. It's the most peculiar feeling, because you get used to reacting in a certain way, don't you, to certain situations. And gradually you find you just don't. You just don't. Then you start realising what an awful lot of energy you wasted getting wound up about nothing. Because it's not going to help. It's actually going to hinder you. So that's just a little thing, and if you can just, what did that take us? 7 minutes that took. It's really easy to find 7 minutes. Even if you get up 7 minutes earlier in the morning, and then perhaps before you go to bed do another 7 minutes, you come back to that still place, the now, the present moment. It's a really good way of topping and tailing your day. Okay,
Yes.
so lots of turmeric in your food. Get those rosemary plants out, and let's see whether your memory improves. And I'll be
Yeah.
very interested to know how your knees do. Steve.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, you can be a bit of a guinea pig
Mm,
for
that's
me
right,
if you
yes.
like.
Definitely try.